Greybridge Manor had always been more than a house. It was a living entity, one that thrived on fear. Those who entered seeking answers rarely left unscathed. For centuries, its dark history remained hidden, known only to the most secretive circles. And now, once again, it called for new victims. In the quiet of her study, Elizabeth Monroe pored over dusty tomes and ancient documents. Every discovery led her deeper into the mystery that surrounded Greybridge Manor. As she turned the pages of a forgotten journal, a chilling pattern emerged. Each resident had been touched by something unnatural.
The symbols, these markings, they aren't just random. They're part of a larger ritual, one meant to contain a force that predates this house.
Her hands trembled as she traced the inked symbols, ritualistic diagrams meant to bind something otherworldly within the manor's walls. The realization came slowly, but with it, dread. The rituals weren't meant to protect the residents. They were intended to keep something contained, and the seal was weakening.
Greybridge isn't just cursed. It's holding something, a force, a presence, and now it's breaking free.
At the skeptics' headquarters, a group of experts who prided themselves on debunking myths and paranormal activity gathered around the latest footage from Greybridge Manor. For years, they had dismantled stories of haunted houses, turning mystery into logical explanations. But this time was different.
It's always the same drafty hallways, old pipes, or someone playing tricks. There's always a rational explanation.
Maybe so, but this footage, I'm not so sure anymore. There's something about the shadows. They move on their own.
They paused the video, zooming in on the shadowy figures creeping along the walls, twisting and turning in ways that defied the laws of light. What they saw left them uneasy. Could it all really be tricks of the mind?
Are we really saying shadows can do that without someone causing it? Have we ever seen anything like this?
Doubt began to creep in. For the first time, their logic faltered. They were seeing things they couldn't explain, and that was the most terrifying part. Inside the manor, Dr. Harrison led the way, his flashlight cutting through the dim corridors. He had been in haunted locations before, but Greybridge was different. It felt alive. The air was thick, suffocating, and every step felt like a descent into darkness.
It's colder than before. The house, it's different this time.
That's because it's waking up. Something is stirring inside these walls.
They reached an old study, its walls lined with decrepit books and relics. On the floor, faint markings, ancient symbols that had been worn away with time caught Harrison's eye. His breath hitched as he knelt to examine them.
These symbols are part of a containment spell. An ancient one. Whatever they were trying to hold back, it's been weakening for years.
The implications were terrifying. The house wasn't just haunted, it was a prison, and the thing inside was slowly breaking free. Back at the skeptics' headquarters, the team sat in stunned silence. The footage had shown more than they could explain, furniture moving on its own, voices from nowhere, and shadows that seemed to stretch unnaturally. They exchanged uncertain glances.
This isn't what we expected. There's no logical explanation for what we're seeing.
I've seen tricks of light before, but nothing like this. The shadows, they're too deliberate. It's almost as if they're alive.
The room was filled with a silence none of them dared to break. Their whole careers had been built on reason, on explaining the unexplainable. But now, they were confronted with something that didn't fit into their neat boxes of logic.
Maybe not everything can be explained.
Inside the manor, the whispers grew louder, filling every room, every corner. Dr. Harrison and the protagonist moved cautiously down the hall, their breath shallow. Every shadow seemed to watch them, every creak of the floor like a warning.
We shouldn't have come back. It doesn't want us here.
It's too late now. We have to keep going.
Suddenly, the floorboards beneath them creaked violently, and the house seemed to groan in pain. A deep, guttural sound echoed through the halls, sending chills down their spines. Something was watching, something far more dangerous than just a ghost.
Run! We need to get out now!
Outside the manor, Elizabeth Monroe arrived, her car screeching to a halt. She had uncovered the truth, but now she feared it was too late. The ritual that had been meant to contain the darkness was failing.
We have to stop it before it's too late.
But the house had already begun its transformation. Dark tendrils of shadow snaked out from the windows, wrapping around the building like a living thing. Inside, the walls pulsed with malevolent energy, and the very air seemed to vibrate with dark power.
Wait! Before you go deeper into the darkness, if you're still watching, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Midnight Frights is just getting started. You don't want to miss what's lurking ahead.
Back at the Skeptics' headquarters, the team watched in horror as live footage from the manor showed its transformation. The house was no longer just a building, it was alive, feeding on the fear of those inside.
We have to do something. We can't just sit here and watch them die.
What can we do? This is beyond anything we've ever dealt with.
Their fear was palpable. For years, they had scoffed at stories of ghosts and curses, but now, faced with undeniable evidence, they were helpless. The house had crossed a lineon between the explainable and the truly horrifying. Inside the manor, Dr. Harrison and the protagonist reached the front door, but it was too late. The house had sealed itself, trapping them inside with the darkness. The shadows gathered around them, and a deep voice whispered from the void.
You cannot leave. You belong to me now.
They realized then that the house wasn't just haunted, it was a living, breathing entity, one that thrived on fear, and once you entered, it never let you leave. With no other choice, Dr. Harrison turned to face the darkness. Inside the manor, Dr. Harrison and the protagonist stood frozen as the walls closed in around them, the dark tendrils wrapping tighter, their breath catching in their throats. The manor was not merely cursed, it was alive, and it had chosen them.
We can't fight this, it's too strong.
We can't let it win. Not like this.
With no other option, Dr. Harrison raised his flashlight, illuminating the ancient symbols carved into the wall. His voice was firm, though the terror was clear in his eyes.
If it's rituals that bound this thing, then rituals can break it.
The air thickened as the walls groaned under the weight of the malevolent presence. Time was running out. As he began to chant the broken words from Elizabeth's research, the room trembled and the dark tendrils retracted, hissing like a beast in pain.
You think you can defy me, mortal?
Suddenly, the shadows lunged toward Dr. Harrison, faster than ever, pulling him toward the dark abyss. He cried out in a final desperate attempt to save them both.
Leave this place now!
The protagonist turned to flee, the door finally swinging open, but not before one last glance at Dr. Harrison, swallowed by the shadows, still fighting against the darkness with all his might. As the door slammed shut behind them, the house fell silent, its hunger momentarily sated. Greybridge Manor claimed another soul that night, and its secrets were buried deeper than ever. But for those who survived, the curse was only just beginning. The house would call again, and next time, it wouldn't let anyone escape.
Don't miss out on the next chapter of terror. Subscribe now and get ready for part 5 of The Curse at Greybridge Manor, where the dark secrets only grow more sinister. Hit that notification bell to be the first to experience the chilling conclusion. Stay tuned for more fear and mystery.